Today is November 16th and the time is 5:05 p.m. And today we're here to do a follow-up session. The last time we talked about stress management, and I know you had set a goal and you wanted to take time to talk with your husband and work towards carving out some quality time for you guys to spend together. And so were you able to share your thoughts with your husband?
You know, I did. I was able to do that, and I have found that was very helpful.
Okay, great.
To really legitimately tell him we needed to set aside time just to talk about setting aside time. So that we did, and we've been able to, the past couple of weekends, actually have the kids, go away for the evening and be able to go out and spend quality time together.
Wonderful, really good. So do you think that has strengthened your relationship?
I do, yes.
Great.
And we've actually also gone out with the kids as well as a family, and that's always really nice.
Wonderful.
Dinner and stuff like that. So it's been good.
Good. And so do you think that has helped to build that support system that before you said needed some attention?
Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
He just actually, I had a big project due here recently, and he stepped up and took the initiative actually, and told me he had kind of helped kickstart the project for me.
Okay. I know we had also talked about the workplace. And
Yes.
you're feeling a lack of support there, and maybe like you weren't able to communicate things, feeling some frustration at work. And so I found this book. It's called How to Say It for Women, and I wanted to point out some things in this book for you here. And I think it's a 15-chapter book. And so I made some notes about some chapters that might be really useful for you. So if you don't have a chance to read the whole book, you could read these chapters. So it is about communicating in the workplace. It's for women and building skills there. But I think that you could also use communication everywhere, and it would probably overall build your communication skills and confidence therein. Chapter 1 in the book is about the language of success overall. Just kind of how and why it's important to use a certain way of speaking to be successful and communicate yourself successfully. Chapter 3 is it's called Grammar of Power. So it's learning how to phrase things in a way to make you successful, to make the most out of what you're saying. Chapter 4 is called Words That Work. So word selection, making sure that we kind of think about what we're going to say in the workplace, or even in dealing with people that we have relationships with, phrasing things correctly with their words. And then chapter 7 is about body language. It's called Body Language of Power. So in order to effectively communicate, we need to have our body language
present ourselves in a certain
manner. Correct. And confidence obviously would be a part of that body language. So any thoughts on that? Do you think that would be a helpful resource for you?
Most definitely, yes. And I'm really glad that you've outlined some chapters, because the time management, issue.
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
hard to, but that makes it less intimidating.
And then also you can think about using this if you're transferring to another position. This could work well for you for job interview skills.
I was going to say, yes, most definitely. Yes.
So, however you can apply it in your life, I think that it would be a helpful resource for you.
Well, I appreciate it. That's awesome, because we need resources.
We do, don't we? Resources from. Yes, very important. And that can help to build that support system. I mean, just having the foundation for yourself. So
great. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Yeah. I know you had brought to me another concern before we started our session here. Would you like to kind of explain that to me?
Well, just this week, my I've known her I've known Belinda since the first grade. So, I've known her almost as long as I've known my family. And she called me at 6 o'clock in the morning and told me that her husband of 13 years. She'd been with him for 20 years. Had died, passed away.
Absolutely. It's a very tragic situation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
horrible.
When you had mentioned it to me before, so I went ahead and I gathered up some additional resources for you for that situation. I know that we always want to be a good friend for someone in that situation, and so I have a piece of paper here, and I'll kind of go over it, and I wanted to give it to you to take with you. Maybe you could use it to kind of remind you of things to do when you maybe feel like you don't know how to handle the situation. So I just want to remember that when we're helping someone grieve a loss, we want to be a good listener, obviously. That's an important step, and I think, that goes along with being a good friend. I think it means a lot to just sit and listen sometimes, especially when someone's going through something very tragic in their life. And then we want to also, as a friend to someone who's grieving, recognize the stages of the grieving process. And so here I kind of have written an outline for that. The stages of the grieving process don't always go in the same order, and sometimes they cycle back through until finally they get to the last stage of acceptance. So we have denial and isolation. It's oftentimes in the, maybe the initial stage or early on. Denial and isolation, where they're not really willing to accept their fate or what has happened, and maybe pulling back and not being around others. Anger is, often, you can't control it. So what you can't control, you feel very passionate about, you might be very angry. And bargaining, and an example of that would be like, if I had only done this. So kind of like placing blame on themselves. And then finally acceptance. And so she might even reach the acceptance stage and then go back to maybe the isolation stage, or reach the acceptance stage and then go back to anger. So just because she finally reaches the acceptance stage doesn't mean she's done and ready to move on. And so maybe as a friend, with this knowledge, you could share it with her and, be like, it's completely normal that, that you're feeling angry in this situation. So, does that sound like something that...
It does seem really helpful. It's just, it's so hard and difficult, and I don't know how to be there for her, and I've seen, and of course she's far from, but I've seen, I've seen she's angry, I've seen her isolate and pull away. I know she's completely just, in denial. She expressed that, several times, and just, so she's going to keep going and keep, I know that's going to, like you said, she'll cycle from one into the other.
Sure.
And yes, and I don't, that's just her soulmate, and she's, like I said, so I want to be able to be there for her.
Sure, and remind her that, what she's going through is allow her that time,
I know, and,
sure.
And that's, I don't know when, when's the, how long do I wait before I call her? You know what I mean?
Right.
That kind of thing. So.
Well, I think it's another helpful idea to just remember to check on her, And we don't want her to stay in the isolation stage.
Right.
So, but at the same time, being her friend, if she is feeling that she wants to be left alone, I wouldn't get upset or take it personally if she...
Oh, most definitely. Right.
So, also, you might want to ask her what she might need help with, Another idea is like maybe memorializing the loss of her husband. Maybe an idea of like having, you said she has 2 young sons, maybe as a family planting a tree in honor of him, and then they could watch that grow. It was something that would be permanent, or a lifetime. So some ideas like that, and then maybe suggest to her counseling, or like a church or community group for her. Just kind of motivate her along whenever she's ready, and then help her through that. And then I have also some book suggestions. You said she has sons.
Yeah, I had told her that I was gonna find out some books to help her. They're 10 and 4, and of course the 4-year-old, he doesn't, he just doesn't fully grasp what's going on.
Sure.
So.
Sure. So one of the books is called Everett Anderson's Goodbye, and the authors are all on here. So,
Okay.
and it's about a young boy who lost his father, and it kind of goes through the grieving process with him. So that one, especially since it is a boy who lost his father,
Right.
could be really
Yes.
useful for
Most
those
definitely.
two. Another book is called Love Never Stops, and it's actually a memory book for children, and it's something that kind of could go along with the memorializing idea, because it's, I guess, kind of like a scrapbook, kind of like, a baby book, but it goes along the lines of honoring the one who's passed on.
So, is this something that I could get on Amazon?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Then there's one called The Saddest Time, and it has 3 different stories. It presents 3 different stories, and it talks about children losing a loved one. And the thing I think that would be really good about that is that it presents coping strategies in the book also.
Are these something that the 4-year-old would appreciate as well, or would it be more for the older child?
Well, and I don't think that 4-year-olds really necessarily understand the finality of death. But I think, yes, reading it to both of them.
Okay.
And then I think also, to the 4-year-old, that he could see how his older brother's dealing with it and, the family process.
Right, okay.
Absolutely. There you go.
Thank you.
And what do you think that you can take away from what we've talked about today?
Well, I mean,
We've covered a large area.
yes,
We talked
I
about
was
a lot.
going to say, just in kind of celebrating, the success that I've had with my husband, and, us being able to spend time together, quality time, family, quality time, alone time, and like I said, he stepping up and helping me out without my asking was a huge, just benefit for us, I think. And,
Wonderful.
And then, the work, the resource that you offer me in this book, I think will be great to help me, and if not nothing else, then to build a resume.
Sure.
And then with Belinda, most definitely the grieving process is something that I, as a friend, didn't really fully know what I was going to do. So this is helpful for me, and most definitely for her. And through the, just I'm going to pass these on to her.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, we talked about how we started with the celebration. And so even though we started with the celebration and things were great, it's just kind of the way life goes, and now here's another event.
Right.
And so we do want to set that foundation and have those skills in order to be able to deal with whatever may come next in life. So I'm glad that we started with the celebration. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Very good. And so I know that this is more for you being a support system, but maybe could we set a goal for the communication at work? Kind of going back to that.
With my husband?
With the communication at work?
The communication at work.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think that I'm going to definitely, like I said, tackle each chapter that you recommended to me, and try to benefit my work environment, improve my work environment, through, because if I'm not happy, then and until I'm happy, but if I can work to make small changes, then
Great.
in a positive, way,
Sure.
maybe I will be less stressed at work.
Wonderful. So maybe could we say that you would take a chapter at a time and kind of study it and try to implement it?
Yes.
As a small step.
That's
towards...
that's my plan. That
Great.
I can, tackle one chapter, implement the changes in my daily routine, and then
hopefully celebrate success.
Right, and then once I've done that, then take on another chapter.
Okay.
So let's not overwhelm myself.
Wonderful. Very good. Very good. Okay. So I think that we pretty much covered everything we set out to do today.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Rhonda. It was so helpful. I really appreciate it.
Very welcome. Today is November 16th, and we had a follow-up meeting today on our last from our last session. And today we kind of focused on communication overall. And the time is 5:40. Thank you.
Thank you.